that she misled the American people over and over and over again while under federal investigation.
When do we beat Mexico at the border? They're laughing at us, at our stupidity. And now they're beating us economically. They are not our friend.
In the absence of the truth, bullcrap prevails. So here come the truth, jokers. Look at what's been going on. All the people are coming out, the dang Walking Dead. You know, the people who don't pay attention to politics until the election cycle comes around. And they get so emotional. They get all into it, and, you know, they pick their sides and they fight against each other. But in reality, they ain't getting nowhere with it. So you're falling for the little racist angle. You're fighting each other. You're ripping up the signs. And, oh yeah, let me go to this. This is something here. How is it that this little fake joker right here comes out and endorses Donald Trump? Now, elections are all about perception. So when you see this guy endorsing Donald Trump, you will say, oh, well, Donald Trump is a racist because he's endorsing Donald Trump. But here's the thing. What is KKK? Well, the KKK was created by the Democrats. The KKK still belongs to the Democrats. So this guy right here knows that if he comes out and throws his support behind Donald Trump, it's going to get the reaction of this. That's the only reason why he's coming out and doing that. Lyndon B. Johnson did the same thing in the 1964 election. He made an ad saying that Barry Goldwater was endorsed by the KKK. But how is he going to say that when the KKK is a democratic entity? They are the prop, and I'm talking about the KKK. The Democrats are the most racist party in history, the only party in American history to kill black people because they wanted them to vote Democrat. Lyndon B. Johnson said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. When he was talking about N-words, he was talking about black people, and black people, they still vote Democrat.
Breaking tonight, stunning new evidence in the search for the truth about the terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya, which led to the first assassination of a U.S. ambassador in decades, as well as the murder of 3 other Americans. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. For years, Americans have demanded to know why security was so lax at our Benghazi consulate on the 9/11 anniversary, whether our government did all it could to save those under attack that night, and whether the administration may have misled the nation about the reasons behind the assault. Now, after an exhaustive hearing featuring former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, we may be closer to answers, in particular on whether the American people were misled by an administration fighting to win a second term. It was September 11th, 2012, 56 days before the presidential election, and 11 years to the day after the worst terror attack in our nation's history. America once again came under attack. This time in a foreign city many had never heard of. But as day turned to night in Benghazi, Libya, a mob approached the U.S. consulate. At 9:40 p.m. local time, they attacked. An alarm sounded, and chaos ensued, as our own Greg Palcott reported.
The entire safe haven, which takes up part of the first floor of the main residence, is black with thick smoke and fumes. Ambassador Stevens, Sean Smith, and David Ubben move to a bathroom within the safe area, which has a window. They try to open it, but it doesn't help. There's just too much smoke. They drop to the floor, trying to get air, but even down there, they can't breathe. Fighting the heat and smoke, they find another window grill they can open.
This is the window that Special Agent Ubben jimmies open and crawls out of, but Stevens and Smith do not crawl out after him. And so, even though he can barely see, barely breathe, he goes back in. In fact, he goes back in and out several times. He can't find them.
Rescuers later recovered the body of Sean Smith, but they failed to locate Ambassador Chris Stevens and were forced to leave the facility under fire. Sometime after midnight, looters pulled the ambassador, unidentified at the time, from the burnout consulate. He was taken to a hospital, unresponsive. At 1:45 a.m., our ambassador, Chris Stevens, was declared dead. Hours later, a new attack, this time at a nearby CIA annex. Despite pleas from the Americans in Libya back to Washington, help would never arrive. And two CIA operatives, Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods, later died in that assault. As news broke of the attack here at home, the Obama administration immediately and repeatedly blamed the deadly assault on protesters outraged over an anti-Mohammed video made by a filmmaker in California.
Some have sought to justify this vicious behavior along with the protest that took place at our embassy in Cairo yesterday as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet.
It was a story Mrs. Clinton repeated 2 days later, just steps away from the bodies of the dead at a ceremony stateside. The remains of Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, Glenn Doherty, and Tyrone Woods returned to the nation for which they died. And it was there that the families say administration officials, including Hillary Clinton, blamed the death of their loved ones on an out-of-control protest caused by that video.
She came up and shook my hand, and she made this statement to me that we will make sure that the person who made that film is arrested and prosecuted.
Obama and Hillary and Panetta and Biden and Susan all came up to me at the casket ceremony. Every one of them came up to me, gave me a big hug, and I asked them what happened. Please tell me. And every one of them says, it was the video.
From the start, the families did not buy it. But the story was repeated to family members and to the public over and over and over again.
This was not a pre-planned, premeditated attack. That what happened initially was that it was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video.
The natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video were used as an excuse by extremists.
I have made it clear that the United States government had nothing to do with this video, and I believe its message must be rejected by all who respect our common humanity.
The media investigated, and the story began to fall apart. It was revealed that there were no protests in Benghazi that night, and this was indeed a pre-planned terrorist attack. Mrs. Clinton's State Department was investigated repeatedly, and while it became clear that the video was not to blame, no smoking gun proving deceit was ever found. And then it emerged that Mrs. Clinton had been withholding evidence. In all of the investigations, she never turned over her own emails. Not from her time at State, not from her days dealing with Benghazi. The committee now investigating the Benghazi attack demanded those emails and her testimony. And today, for the first time, we heard Mrs. Clinton's truth, at least in the hours right after the attack. What she really believed as she told the public a video was to blame. And the truth is that what Mrs. Clinton said publicly was very different from what she claimed privately she knew. That this attack had nothing to do with the video, nor with a protest. That it was a pre-planned terrorist attack, and she said she knew it. Here is Secretary Clinton, in her own words, to the Prime Minister of Egypt, hours after the attack. We know that the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Those are her words. And she goes on to say, based on the information we saw today, we believe the group that claimed responsibility for this was affiliated with al-Qaeda. We've never seen that email before. So why did she tell the families and the public a different story? Today, Congressman Jim Jordan tried to get answers. Watch.
If there's no evidence for a video-inspired protest, then where'd the false narrative start? Started with you, Madam Secretary. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. I want to show you a few things here. Within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth, but that's not what the American people got. And again, the American people want to know why.
Well, I think if you look at the statement that I made, I clearly said that it was an attack, and I also said that there were some who tried to justify it on the basis of the video, Congressman. And I think
but real quick, calling it an attack is like saying the sky's blue. Of course, it was an attack.
Well,
we want to know the truth.
In moments, we'll be joined by Sean Smith's mother, Patricia. But we begin tonight with Mark Thiessen, a Fox News contributor and former chief presidential speechwriter for President George W. Bush, who watched these hearings today. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Megan.
I understand Hillary Clinton's later defense today at the hearing, which was, I still believe, she says, I still believe that the video played some role. But I heard no explanation from her as to if that was her belief, if that's her belief today, why she told the Egyptian prime minister, we know that this attack had nothing to do with the film. We know it was a planned attack and not a protest. Why did she say that if, to this day, she believes it was about a video?
Because she doesn't believe it was about a video, because she's covering up what we weren't supposed to hear. What Congressman Jordan did today was give us the smoking gun that we were never supposed to see, which is the internal thoughts that she had in her communications with her family, with foreign leaders, telling them this was an al-Qaeda attack, this was a pre-planned attack. I mean, she, at the same time that she was going out and saying this was about an inflammatory video, she said there that she said it was an attack. She never used the word terrorism. She never used the word al-Qaeda. At the same time she was doing that, almost simultaneously, she sent an email to her daughter, Chelsea, saying, two of our officers were just killed by an attack with a group affiliated with al-Qaeda. She told foreign leaders this. And this is the problem with this, Megyn, is that I think that the American people would not have blamed them for Benghazi if they had stepped forward, if she and President Obama had stepped forward and said, America has come under attack by al-Qaeda on the anniversary of September 11, 2001. We are going to get the people who did this. And I think Americans would have rallied to them. But they didn't do that. They lied about it. And that's what I think is unforgivable.
Mark, here's what she says about that, basically that email to her family. She says the night of the attack, al-Qaeda made, this al-Qaeda affiliated group made a claim of responsibility that they then pulled back the next day. And she says as the intel coming to her and everyone else in the administration changed, so too did their message. And yet what she says to the Egyptian leader is, we know. She's coming out. Already the messages were conflicting because she's saying one thing to him and she's saying something else publicly. But she didn't say, we believe and we still have to investigate.
No, she didn't. And the truth is that they didn't have intel coming in saying that it was a protest. The people on the ground who saw it happen were telling them there was no protest. They knew from the very beginning there was no protest. And how does that explain then Susan Rice going out the following Sunday when it was absolutely clear that it had been a protest, going out and saying on that there was no pre-planned attack, when a few days earlier she had told the Prime Minister of Egypt it was a pre-planned attack.
And it wasn't just Susan Rice. I mean, listen to Jay Carney. Okay, this is Jay Carney at the White House. This is September 19th. Now, this is... No, wait. I just want to make sure. Okay, is this a soundbite where he's talking about we have no information, it was a pre-planned attack? Just want to make sure, because I have like 50 Jay Carney soundbites queued up. All right, they're getting it. It was wrong. See, I knew. Okay, September 14th. That makes sense. Listen to what Jay Carney said, September 14th.
We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack.
No information to suggest it was a pre-planned attack. Look at Hillary's email. We know the attack in Libya was a planned attack, not a protest. We know the attack was planned, not a protest. And he was saying, as of September 14th, days later, we have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack. And here's another one. This is Jay Carney saying we have no information that this was not in reaction to a film. Watch.
We don't have and did not have concrete evidence to suggest that this was not in reaction to the film.
No information that it wasn't about a film. And this is Hillary days earlier. We know the attack had nothing to do with the film. Mark, this is what drives people crazy. It drives them crazy. You know, why not just come out and lay it out? This is what makes people distrust not just these politicians, but Washington, but the administration, but anybody who even raises their hand and testifies under oath, believing you're not being straight with me.
No, that's exactly right. And this is why, I mean, and what Jay Carney said is the exact opposite of what Hillary Clinton said today in her hearing, which is, according to her narrative, initially they thought it was a terrorist attack. Then they had some other information coming in suggested it might have had something to do with the video, which is why they hedged. Jay Carney said they had no information coming in saying it had to do that it was a pre-planned terrorist attack. So that's a complete opposite story. I mean, the problem here is you're exactly right. It's a question of trust. I think Americans would have rallied around this president. Look, we just went through a thing with Donald Trump where Donald Trump tried to blame 9/11 on George W. Bush. And the American people don't buy that. They don't blame George W. Bush. They don't blame Bill Clinton for the East Africa embassy bombings and for the coal. And they would not have blamed Barack Obama for Benghazi if he had stood up and been honest with the American people, said we were under attack and that we were going to do something about it, and then did it. They would have rallied around him. But instead, they were more concerned with the political narrative than they were with the fact that we had come under attack by terrorists when they told us that the terrorists had been defeated.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Well, my next guest's son was one of the 4 Americans killed in Benghazi on September 11th, 2012. Patricia Smith is Sean Smith's mother. Patricia, thank you for being back with us tonight. Your reaction to what we heard today and to that email in particular.
Well, that's kind of interesting because my son called me the night before telling me about the people that were walking around the compound taking pictures, and they were taking pictures of the diesel fuel and everything, and that's what set on fire. They knew that this was going to happen. They were just planning their attack.
They were people who were supposed to be guarding the embassy who were taking pictures, and he believed rightly that they were in fact planning an attack and not planning to protect anybody. Did you? I mean,
these were the February 17 people, he told me, whatever that is.
What does it mean to you? I mean, I know that you have believed all along that what you were told over your son's casket was not true, that it was not about a video. But to see the email from Hillary Clinton to the Egyptian Prime Minister saying it outright, saying we know the attack had nothing to do with the film. We know it. We know it was a planned attack and not a protest. What does that mean to you? What perspective does that give you?
It gives me a very good one. She lies. Very simple. She is not telling the truth. She's trying to push her own agenda through. What she was hoping would happen is what she said, not what actually happened.
Can I round back to what she actually said? Because I'm not questioning your integrity in any way, but you were a grieving mom. It was an emotional moment. Is there any chance that in her exchange to you, she just said, you know, and we're also going to get that guy who produced the video, as opposed to blaming your son's death on the video?
She told me it was a video that it was. She told me personally it was a video. Obama told me, Panetta told me, Biden told me, they all told me at the casket ceremony that it was the video, and they would definitely call me and let me know if there was any change as soon as they investigated it a little bit more thoroughly. I have heard nothing from the government since, other than I am not a member of the immediate family and they don't have to tell me.
Is that true? I mean, who's telling you that they don't have to communicate
That is true.
with you?
I've got that in writing.
How are you not a member of the immediate family? You're his mother.
I told them that, and they won't give me the answer. Every time I contacted the State Department, you know, they have a grieving person that you're supposed to talk to because I'm part of the family, that I'm supposed to contact with. So I called that person and I asked them what's happening, what's going on. They say they don't have to tell me because I am not a member of the immediate family, and I'm supposing, and I'm just supposing, that Heather, the wife, is the only member of the immediate family.
Patricia, very sorry for your loss. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Oh, Megan, please find out I got to know what happened. They don't tell me. I still don't know. The government has never told me. They have never contacted me. And I've got to know. That was my only child. And yes, I'm grieving because they won't tell me anything. If Hillary had any sense in her head, all she'd have to do is make one phone call and there'd be no more problems. But they don't tell me. They won't tell me nothing because I am not a member of the immediate family.
Patricia, your grief is obvious and understandable. Thank you.
But they don't care. They don't care.
We'll continue this. We thank you again for being here.